My name is Duffy. And this is the story of how I lost everything for a dream that was never mine to begin with. It was supposed to be the biggest moment of my life. The kind of moment you share with family, where your sacrifice means everything. My parents, after years of struggle, had always dreamed of a home, a place where they could retire, grow old, and feel like they had finally made it. And so, when the opportunity arose, I did the unthinkable. I emptied my bank accounts, drained my savings, and sold everything I owned. Every penny went into securing that house, a mansion nestled in the hills, with a view that took your breath away. An infinity pool overlooking the city lights. I knew it was a stretch, but I was determined. My parents deserved it, and in my heart, I believed this was the ultimate expression of love. They'd always given me everything, and now it was my turn. But when they finally walked through that front door, their eyes lit up like children on Christmas morning. Their smiles were wide, too wide, like masks hiding something I couldn't see. A fleeting glance at my father's face told me something was off. I could feel it in my bones. And then Graham, my stepbrother, stepped into the room. He had always been a shadow in the background, always quiet, always lurking, but something in his eyes that day told me this moment wasn't meant for me. They took the keys, they looked at the house, and then they handed them to him. "Graham," my father said, his voice barely a whisper, "this is your new home." I stood there, frozen. My knees buckled as the weight of it all crashed down on me. All that I had given up. Everything I had sacrificed, all to see the look on their faces. To feel the warmth of their gratitude. But it wasn't for me. It never was. "You, what?" The words escaped my lips, a desperate tremor shaking my voice. My father avoided my eyes, as if looking at me would be an unbearable burden. My mother, usually the anchor of the family, had tears streaming down her face. We thought it was best this way, Duffy," she whispered, her voice cracking. I could hardly breathe. The blood in my veins seemed to freeze, and my body trembled as I stood there in that palatial home that had cost me everything. I felt like a ghost in my own life, every ounce of effort, every moment of sacrifice, lost in a moment that could not be undone. Graham smirked, the mask of innocence he wore as a child long gone. Now, there was nothing but the quiet triumph in his eyes. "I didn't ask for this," I said, my voice cold, detached, as though I were watching a stranger speak. Graham shrugged, as if to say, "I didn't either." But the truth was far worse than I could have ever imagined. The days after the house was handed to Graham were filled with awkward silence. My family, instead of coming together, grew further apart. My father avoided me, my mother's silence became deafening. And Graham, he was everywhere I turned. No one spoke of the betrayal. My family, instead of coming together, grew further apart. My father avoided me, my mother's silence became deafening. And Graham, he was everywhere I turned. He began to control the house, the property, everything. Little by little, he pushed me out of my parents' lives. His smirk only grew wider, his power tighter. He played the part of the golden child. Always the one who was best suited to take on the family legacy. He was always the one in the spotlight. Always the one receiving praise. And I, the one left in the shadows. But I wasn't going to let it end like this. There came a night when the storm broke. When the truth that had been hidden so long came pouring out like a river in flood. I walked into the house, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. The windows were dark, the house was silent. I found Graham in the study, staring out at the view, as if nothing in the world could touch him. His smile was still there, but it was colder now. "Why did you do it?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Graham turned slowly, his face unreadable. "You didn't think they were doing this for you, did you? You were just a tool, Duffy." the means to an end. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. But I was already too far gone to retreat. You knew about it from the start, I said, my voice rising. You knew, and you let me destroy myself for your gain. I didn't make you do anything, he replied, his voice chillingly calm. You made your choice. The twist came late at night. I uncovered a folder hidden beneath stacks of papers in my father's study. It was thick, filled with documents that made my heart race with disbelief. There, in black and white, was the truth. Graham had been in on the plan all along. He wasn't the innocent bystander I thought he was. My father, my mother, they had all planned it. Manipulated me into sacrificing everything for their own secret agenda. Graham wasn't the villain. He was the puppet master. The orchestrator of a plan. So cruel that even I couldn't fathom it until it was too late. Graham had been in control the entire time. He was the one who convinced them to let me drain my savings. He was the one who made sure I would fall for the illusion of helping them. And now that I knew the truth, I realized the cost had been far higher than any financial loss. That night, as I stood alone in the grand house that had never been meant for me, I made a choice. I could let this defeat me. I could walk away, letting the ghosts of my past swallow me whole. Or I could fight back. The question was no longer about money or property. It was about who I was, and who I was willing to become. And so, I left. But not before planting the seed of a plan that would take Graham down, unravel his twisted empire, and expose him for the fraud he was. The house might have been his, but I was no longer the fool. The dream was never meant for me, but the journey? That was all mine. What will happen next? Stay tuned. The battle for everything I lost is just beginning. The heart of a warrior beats loudest when the world believes it has already broken.